This is Dave Thomas. This video is intended to give an overview of the HeatTracker function that can be accessed with a Wi-Fi connection to it. What you're seeing now on the screen is what can be displayed on any number of connected TVs. It gives you a virtual heat tracker. That's what those 5 squares are across the bottom, as well as the current race, one full screen for the current race number, and then a second string that has the race number, the heat number, the format, and then a virtual heat tracker across the middle. And those two screens just toggle back and forth. So if you want to eliminate the need to have the flip cards for your race, your heat tracker can do that for you. If you don't have an optional remote to control the heat tracker, you can control it with your connection. You can take L for win left, R for win right, R again for win right, or T for a tie, and then finally it wins and gives you flashes in the red for the right side winning or green for the left side winning. And then we can type N for next race or P for the prior race. So we can cycle through them like so. So one reason you might want to connect to the heat tracker is just to have the display of the current race and a virtual heat tracker. Now all this is being displayed on a light bar, the LED heat tracker as well, but we're focusing here on what happens what you can get if you actually Wi-Fi connect. If you click anywhere on here, a menu bar comes up and you get some additional options. You can pick what type of race format you have by clicking on these guys. 5 of 5, 4 of 4, 3 of 3. There's also hotkeys. You can just hit the 4 key or the 3 key or the 5 key or Alt 5 key to get those various formats. I'm clicking again to get my menu bar up here. I hit L and R, but you could also click here and do win left and win right, and you can undo or the U push button, etc. One important thing you might want to do is if you have an attached light bar, you can control the brightness of that light bar by this slider here. Underneath setup, we have lots of stuff. This background for this screen, the font style that we use, the type of font, and the colors for each of the screens can be controlled. And I actually have 3 different things. When I first implemented heat trackers, I thought the most important thing was just know when you're on the last heat, because I was always sitting around just waiting, talking with people while racing was going on, and I wouldn't realize we're on the last heat and we had to be in the ring pretty soon. So what you can do is you have a special color, like maybe yellow or red, that just happens when you're on the last heat, and it's some other color for every other heat. And since I did that, I said, what the heck, I'll just have even another color for the race is over. So when it's between races, you got a winner, the lights are flashing, you can have a separate color for it, or you can make them all 3 the same. Not just the background, but you can actually control the font colors as well. And then finally, in a 3 of 5, you can control what I call the maybe heats or the schedule of heats. The last 2 heats are 3 of 5. What color you want to color those? We used to make that just always a dim white instead of a bright white, which that was kind of like, to me, that was maybe its schedule, kind of bright, kind of white. But that dimness, that difference in brightness between a scheduled heat and a tiebreaker heat, that difference is hard to keep consistent over the range of brightnesses that you want picked. So I've had an option here where you can actually configure what color that you want to use for that. People seem to like blue, works out okay. So you can actually load a schedule, and I'll have a separate video on how to load a schedule, but quickly you click on that button and you navigate to where your schedule is, and you'll pick a CSV, and then you'll load that. You'll go in here and you'll identify columns that indicate where your race number column is, where the left team column is, and where the right team column is. Make this a little bigger, and we'll slide this a little bit to the right. Right team, and then finally the format, because it does need to know the format. Where's the format? There, it looks like a format column. Formats is okay. And then once you've done that, you get additional information on your TV screens. You get also who's racing. And the nice thing about this too is you go next and you advance to the different teams, different races. It'll actually figure out what format. And I'm going here, I'm looking at the light bar, and I see that I got to race 9, it changed to 3 of 5. And when it flips back over to the heat page, you'll see this is a 3 of 5 format. Left, right, etc. It's flipping back and forth here. Right, left, etc. So anyway, you instead of having to manually configure the format for each race, it will actually look up the format for that particular race. So that's one reason you might want a Wi-Fi connected so that you can load a race schedule. You can unload the schedule. Light bar brightness, that's the same as clicking this icon. You get this little slider. What else we got here? APES, if you have an APE system, this can actually transmit the current race number and current heat number to APES. And what will happen is whenever passes aren't occurring on APES, the left TV will show the race number and the right TV will show the heat. This tells whether you have the LED light bar attached. You can use this whole application without having anything but the $70 TV drivers. But this tells the software that you do have it. And client displays, so you can set this up so that if you have 4 or 5 TVs or however many you have, you don't have to have them get in and connect each time you start. Like on Sunday morning, you might start all over again. You just want to be able to turn them on and have them reconnect. And this is something that we'll go into and you can configure so that they automatically reconnect on restart. You can use Flyball Geek to advance the race number automatically so that you don't have to. I've noticed that sometimes people at the end of a race, I'm going to go left, 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 left. Here it's flashing. And if you don't have a display up and watching and you do next and you're sitting there and all you see is the light bar, you don't have this screen in front of you, you don't know what your current race is. And so people are not sure, did I advance that or not, or did I do it twice and I forgot? So one way you can avoid that is to set up for Flyball Geek to synchronize, so that whatever Flyball Geek is set up to, then you can it will just synchronize your race to that. To do that, you'll need an event ID and what ring you're in. If there's more than one ring in your tournament, then you need to interrogate what's the current race in each ring. These are just the same things. You have hotkeys for these. Same thing, change race. You can do next race or prior race. This will be N and P, just like this is L if you want to use a hotkey, or R for a hotkey, or U for an undo, or T for tie, or push the appropriate buttons on the remote if you have that. And then under test, just have some things you can do with the light bar. They really have no meaning unless you have a light bar. You can turn it all red, all green. You can pick what color you want to turn it all to and slide it around. Play with it that way. And you can sequence. You can go through this startup sequence that it goes through, where it ripples through all the primaries and the mix of primaries, or red, white, and blue. This is just kind of play stuff. Anyway, the main thing I think that you might want to bother to connect is for the schedule, loading the schedule for once to determine whether you have a light bar or not. If you have a light bar, or if you get it after I ship this to you, you may need to turn it on, and to set up what the event ID is for Flyball Geek. If you're using, of course you want to do it if you want to use it, put this display on multiple TVs, and then you might, if you do that, you might want to play with what you want to use for a background color. Let's just make it something ugly for a second. And you see as you do that, it'll turn to that, and we can make the font be something hideous. I don't know, just pick a color and you can see it'll turn to that. So now your displays will show whatever you've done on that. Thank you for watching.